Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel, Gardening in Cold Spring Harbor. I'm in Long Island, New York, Zone 7A. Today's video is a raspberry masterclass video. Why? Because we're going to cover everything from A to Z when it comes to choosing the correct and the best raspberry varieties to grow in your own home garden, to when and how to correctly plant the raspberry bare root or a raspberry shrub in your home garden, how to care and maintain for your raspberry shrub throughout the entire year, and of course, when and how to correctly harvest our beautiful, juicy, sweet raspberry yield. So for those of you looking for that online gardening channel, which offers tips, tricks, easy yet proven gardening advice to take your home gardens to that next level. Don't go anywhere, guys. Stick around with me today. Start with going below this video and clicking the subscribe button. Super easy for you to do, super pleasing and rewarding to me. Don't forget to click the bell icon as well if you want YouTube to send you notifications every single time I'll upload a new garden video. Now come with me, let's get gardening and let's talk all about raspberries. Raspberries happen to be one of the easiest fruits to grow in your home garden. And with the amount of space that they occupy, you will get way more harvest than you will get out of any strawberry variety that you attempt to grow. So why not give raspberries a go in your own home garden? So many beautiful raspberry varieties to choose from. In today's video, we're going to cover everything, starting with all the raspberry varieties available out there for us home gardeners. How you can choose the best variety for you and for your home garden. What type of a raspberry should you plant in your home garden? Should you plant a bare root? Should you plant a bare cane? Should you plant a pre-sprouted raspberry cane or a more established mature raspberry shrub? Also, we're going to cover how to care, how to maintain your raspberry plant throughout the entire year, and of course the best and most rewarding process is when and how to harvest our raspberries. Raspberries happen to be the most popular fruit in the entire North America region to grow. So as I said previously, why not give them a try in your own home garden? And of course, today I'm going to show you how I plant various raspberry varieties in my home garden. Look how many beautiful raspberries I was able to pick up at my local garden center. You have your red raspberry varieties, golden raspberry varieties, even our purple and black raspberry varieties as well. So we're going to plant all of these together with you guys, my fellow home gardeners today. And another surprise is waiting for you guys. Today, my kiddos are going to join me in my home garden. My helpful gardeners, my Julia, my Mila, and of course, my son Leonard is going to help me plant all of these beautiful raspberry varieties in my south side garden. So I can't wait to get this process started. So without any further ado, let's get gardening. A single raspberry bush can produce up to thousands of delicious, juicy, healthy raspberries for you each growing season. Raspberries are part of the Rosacea plant family, more specifically the genus Rubus plant family. Raspberries come in many different beautiful varieties. So the raspberry varieties are classified in two different distinct ways. So the first and the most obvious variety clarification or distinction is of course the coloring of the fruit. You have your more traditional red colored raspberry varieties, and there are multiple red colored raspberry varieties out there to choose from as well. You have your black, or some call purple raspberry varieties. And then you have your third raspberry variety. And then the third raspberry variety to choose from is our beautiful yellow, or some refer to it as golden colored raspberry varieties as well. So each of the coloring has multiple raspberry names within that category. So what is that second way to distinguish between the various raspberry varieties? And that way is to know when your specific raspberry variety will bear or produce fruit for you. So the first type of raspberry variety is called your summer bearing raspberry variety. So the summer bearing raspberry varieties produce fruit on second year growth canes. And they tend to produce fruit somewhere around the month of June and July. The second type of raspberry is your ever bearing raspberry varieties. So those varieties produce fruit on new cane growth. They tend to produce one harvest sometime around middle of summer, and the second harvest sometime in early to mid fall as well. Now, if you want to maximize your growth as well as your raspberry yield and harvest, I always recommend growing multiple raspberry varieties in your home garden. This way you'll get a continuous, delicious raspberry harvest. Here are the 3 red raspberry varieties that I will be planting today in my home garden. So just because all 3 will produce red colored raspberry fruit for me doesn't mean that they're all the same, or that they will produce this fruit at the exact same time. So the first red raspberry variety, which I have right over here, is the Canby raspberry variety. And it states right over here that the Canby variety happens to be a thornless red raspberry variety. And you could see right over here that the harvest time will be sometime around August or September. Canby raspberry variety happens to be a summer bearing raspberry variety. So looking at the tag that comes on your container is always very, very helpful, because it lets you know where to plant your raspberry shrub, what the mature established height and width of the shrub will be, and of course the month of harvest time. The next red raspberry variety, which I'll be planting in my home, is the Boyne raspberry variety. You can see right over here that this particular variety produces large, juicy fruit. It's hardy down to zone 3, and the harvest time will be during the month of June. This variety does have quite a few thorns on it, so this is not a thornless raspberry variety. The third red raspberry variety, which I will be planting in my home garden today, it's called the Heritage raspberry variety. So the Heritage raspberry variety happens to be an ever-bearing raspberry variety. How would I know that? Just take a look at the picture here, guys. This label clearly tells you that there are 2 months of harvest time. First month is June, and the second month is September. So you get to harvest your first set of berries in the beginning of summer, and the second round of berries in the fall, more specifically in the month of September. And also right over here on top, it clearly states Heritage is an ever-bearing variety with a large crop in June and an even larger one in September. An excellent choice for eating fresh fruit. It stays firm, juicy, and is very flavorful. The yellow raspberry variety, which I will be planting in my home garden today, is called the Full Gold raspberry varieties, and it's known for super sweet berries. So the full gold raspberry variety happens to be an ever-bearing raspberry variety. And you could see right over there on the bottom that you get to harvest these beautiful, delicious yellow-colored raspberries in the month of July and August. It does say that this variety prefers full sun to part shade. However, if you want more berries, larger harvest, sweeter berries, more sun, the better. The black raspberry variety, which I will be planting in my home garden today, is called the Jewel raspberry variety. So this variety produces large, firm berries that are great for eating fresh or for making jams and pies, as you could see right over here. This is a self-pollinating variety. So the Jewel raspberry variety happens to be a summer-bearing raspberry variety. You could see right over here, the harvest time is only during summer. So the month of July and August. Also, the Jewel black raspberry variety happens to be a disease-resistant raspberry variety, which is great. And look at the coloring of the canes. They're not brown. They're not woody brown color like some other raspberry varieties. Even the canes happen to be this purple color. And this variety does have thorns. Raspberry plants or raspberry shrubs are sold in multiple ways in your local garden centers or nurseries. In the very, very early spring or even late winter, majority of your raspberry plants will be sold in the form of a bare cane. It almost looks like a dead, dry branch or stick. Later on in the season, as the temperatures start to warm up, you're going to start seeing pre-potted raspberry plants sold at your local garden centers as well, which is exactly what I purchased this year. So if you are planting your raspberry plant from a bare cane, you should make a trench and plant the canes in that trench. However, make sure that you space your bare canes at least 18 inches apart. You're planting multiple raspberry plants, whether it's from a bare cane or a pre-potted plant. Most of the time, we have to make multiple rows to plant our raspberry shrubs. If you are making multiple rows for your raspberry plants, make sure that you space your rows at least 4 feet apart. When planting and growing raspberries in your home garden, it's always best to start with 1-year-old canes from a reputable nursery or garden center. Raspberry shrubs, regardless of the variety, whether it's a red, black, or golden raspberry variety, whether it's a summer-bearing or ever-bearing variety, will produce fruit for you second year. So raspberries have 2 types of canes. All varieties have 2 types of canes. First type of cane is called the primal cane, and the second type of cane is called the flora cane. So what are primal canes? Think of the word primal first. They are your canes that are light green in color and very delicate and tender to the touch. So these light green colored canes will not bear fruit for you. They won't even produce flower buds. Second year growth canes, which are your flora canes, think of the word flower. They are your brown colored canes, and these are the canes that will set blooms and produce fruit for you. So when the canes start to grow first year, they're going to be delicate, light green in coloring. As the time goes by, as these canes will mature, they will turn from light green color to this darker brown, woodier canes. And these are the canes that will start bearing fruit for you. Raspberry plants, unlike many other fruiting trees or fruiting shrubs, are self-fertile. What does that mean? That means that you do not need to plant multiple raspberry plants in your home garden, of course, if you don't have space for them or choose not to. By planting one raspberry plant or raspberry shrub, you're still going to get that harvest that you're looking to get. If you are planting your raspberry plant from a bare root or a bare cane, make sure that you pre-soak that bare root or bare cane for at least 2 hours in room temperature tap water prior to planting it in your home garden. If you're planting a pre-potted raspberry shrub, there's no need to pre-soak anything. When it comes to raspberry shrub care, when it comes to pruning, it is our job to cut off any canes around late fall that are older than 2 years old, because raspberry canes are only viable for 2 years. After 2 years, they're not going to come back for you in the spring, and you're not going to see any foliage in them whatsoever. They're going to be dead. So if you know that your canes are older than 2 years old, you should always prune those off mid to late fall season. With each raspberry variety, and regardless of the variety, your floor canes will be good for only 2 years. So what happens to your floor canes after 2 years growing period? They're going to die off. You will not see any more green growth on them the 3rd year. So let me show you. I pruned this heritage raspberry variety last fall. You could see where I pruned it. I trimmed it down a bit. So these are my 2nd year floor canes. These are 3rd year floor canes, and you could see that they have not grown any foliage on them. In fact, if I try to touch it, it is absolutely dry and dead. It snaps right off of your raspberry shrub. Here's another example of a 3rd year floor cane. You could see there's no leaves left on it, and when I try to touch it, it breaks right off from the mother plant. When growing raspberries in your home garden, one very important thing to look out for are something called raspberry suckers. Let me show you what they are. As you could see right over here, all these smaller sized raspberry plants that are growing away from the original mother plant. So this is the raspberry plant that I planted about 2.5 years ago. It was one individual single plant, and as the years went by, you could see all of these suckers have started to form. If you see any smaller sized raspberry plants that are started to grow away from the original mother plant, ideally you want to dig them up, because they are taking energy away from the production of the mother plant. If you choose to dig them up and transplant them, you're going to have a brand new raspberry plant in your home garden. Just again, remember to plant it at least 18 inches away from the original mother plant. And here is my little helper, my son Leonard. He started to dig our first planting hole. So in this planting hole, we're going to be planting the Canberry red raspberry variety. So if you are planting pre-potted raspberry plants, you have to make sure that the planting hole, which you will dig up, will be at least the depth as well as the width of the container in which your raspberry plant has been potted up and has been growing in. So no less than the sizing of the container. Once you dug up your planting hole, one easy way to tell if it's large enough to fit your pre-potted raspberry plant is to take your raspberry container, pre-potted raspberry plant, and to place it into your planting hole. So the rule is that the crown of your raspberry plant has to be 1/2 inch above the soil surface of your planting hole. So make sure that you do not completely bury your plant. So 1/2 inch above the soil surface of your digging hole. Raspberries prefer to be planted and to grow in a full sun location, preferably 6+ hours of sunlight per day. So unlike many other fruiting shrubs, raspberries will tolerate to be planted and growing in a part shade area as well. However, you will not get the amount of fruit that you're looking to get if you plant your raspberry plant in a part sun location. So choose a location that will get at least 6+ hours of direct sunlight per day. Our planting hole has been dug up. It's right over here. We even double checked to make sure that the hole is large enough. It fits the existing container in it very nicely, and you could still see some space left around the container, which is perfect. Again, you don't want your planting hole to be too deep, as 1/2 inch of your raspberry plant's crown has to be exposed above the soil surface. So before I take this raspberry plant out of its container and plant it in my home garden, what is one more step which we must always do prior to planting our raspberry? That step is to amend our planting hole with either compost or manure. I'm going to be using manure today. I'm going to be very generous with how much manure I'm going to use today. Raspberry plants like fertile, well-draining soil. In fact, raspberry plants will not tolerate having wet feet, having their roots sit in lots of moisture, lots of liquid. So make sure that your soil where you're planting your raspberry shrub will be very well draining. So I've amended my planting hole with manure. The next step is, of course, to take out our raspberry from its existing container. Here it is. Just look at the massive, abundant root system. Huge. Now, you should always loosen up the bottom of your root ball so it's not matted or tangled. Next step, of course, is to position our raspberry plant in the center of the planting hole. I like to sprinkle a little bit more manure or compost right around the root system. Be generous, guys. Your raspberry plant will thank you tremendously. With my little helpers helping me in my home garden today, we're planting our raspberry shrubs rather quickly. So the gardening job is moving right along. Now that we've added all the necessary compost and manure to our planting hole, next step is to backfill our planting hole. Remember to leave the bottom 1/2 inch of your crown exposed. So you do not want to completely bury your raspberry plant. Always tap the soil back a bit. As you could see, I am not burying the crown of my raspberry plant. There is absolutely no need to do that. Then you should mend in your soil with the heel of your foot, making sure that it's nice and compact. Should you feel you need more soil, like I do right over here, I add as much as I will be needing. After you're done backfilling your hole, always water your newly planted raspberry shrub thoroughly. overall, raspberry plants need about an inch of water per week, anywhere from the spring season all the way to harvest time. And regular watering is better than infrequent watering. Always stay on top of the moisture content in your newly fresh planting site. When it comes to fertilization, raspberry plants really do not need regular fertilizing. However, I do like to give them a nice boost of manure every fall, right around the time when I prune my raspberry shrubs. This is it for this video, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me here today in my home garden in Long Island, New York, Zone 7A. In today's video, my kiddos and I planted 5 raspberry shrubs in my home garden. And look how beautiful they look in their new planted location. If you have enjoyed the content of today's video, if you found today's video to be useful, helpful, informative, in absolutely any way, don't be shy, guys. Show me that support by clicking thumbs up below. Leave your comments in the comment section as well. Let me know, do you grow raspberries in your home garden? If so, what raspberry varieties do you prefer to grow in your home garden? Share some pictures with me of your beautiful raspberry shrubs. For those of you who haven't yet subscribed to my gardening channel, Gardening Cold Spring Harbor, what are you waiting for, guys? Super easy for you to do, super pleasing and rewarding to me. Just go below this video and click the subscribe button. Click the bell icon as well if you want YouTube to send you notifications every single time I'll upload a new garden video. Stay healthy, happy, be well, each and every single one of you. And as I always like to say, happy gardening, guys, and I'll see you again in my new upcoming garden videos. Bye, guys.